Hello, welcome. I'm going to wait just a few minutes, let everyone get their audio connected. All right, y'all. Go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Leah Mudd. I am a second year graduate assistant with New Student and Family Programs. I'm very, very excited to be here with y'all tonight. To kick us off, I am going to share my screen just to go over a couple of things, and then we will get into the rest of the webinar tonight. So of course, congratulations, thank you all. I know that we congratulate your students a lot, but I think family members deserve equal congratulations. It is a huge feat for your student to be attending Florida State, and we are equally as excited to have y'all here as well. So congratulations and welcome. A little bit about New Student and Family Programs. One of the programs that we actually offer is Family Connection. And the reason we have Family Connection is to really bridge the gap between the university and our family members at Florida State. We really try to support our family members, give them the information of things that maybe your students are experiencing on campus, and really just keeping that communication open and informing y'all of what is going on campus. So a couple ways that you can stay connected with New Student and Family Programs as well as Family Connection is right here. So here's our phone number, a bunch of social media information, which is where we share a lot of our graphics with some great information and ways to keep up with maybe what your student is experiencing on campus. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to allow our friends from housing to introduce themselves and then get started.
All right. Hi, good evening. My name is Mandy Shields. I'm with University Housing, and I manage our contracts, assignments, all of our occupancy, most of our customer service, the website, social media, a lot of the things that you've probably interacted with so far along your journey to Florida State. And so happy to be here to give you some information in a short presentation and then try to answer your questions as we are launching so quickly towards move-in in just a couple of days, measuring in days at this point, not weeks. Very exciting. Bree, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Bree, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I serve as the proud residence coordinator for the Azalea Magnolia community. So if we have any parents and students on here, hello. I'm so excited, and we're preparing to welcome you all to FSU. And I look forward to answering any questions that you all have and welcoming all family and students to our home here at Florida State with University Housing.
All right. So we will go ahead and go through a quick presentation to hit on some highlights right now. Let's see how that goes. That's really bright, but the whole thing is not that bright, I promise. But we are all awake now. So we want to share some info for you. Lots of questions we're getting in the office right now is about move-ins. So we're going to hit on some highlights. Lots of questions we've been getting about kind of how the residence halls are different this fall than they kind of usually would be. I know a lot of you are legacy parents and either you attended Florida State or you've had another student here or know people who have. And so just want to give you a little information on that. We do have a reduced density in all of our halls. None of our halls will be 100% full, right? We've kind of reduced the number in all of them. Our normal total capacity is about 6,700, and right now our current occupancy is 4,700. And so kind of have whittled that down. One big change that we've made based on the Sally Hall bedrooms are some of the smallest that we have. And so to have two people, especially if they don't know each other, to live in that space under current conditions, we thought would be challenging. And so we made Sally Hall bedrooms all singles. So those are 2-bedroom suites with one student per bedroom, and they would share the bathroom. So that was made across the board in Sally Hall. And then Rogers Hall is offline. That's typically an upper division apartment building. And that is offline for isolation space for when we have students who are positive for their COVID test. So move-in, we sent an email last week, a couple of emails and some signups for things. So if you haven't received those yet, definitely check in with your student and make sure that they're checking their FSU email address. All residential students are required to have a COVID test immediately prior to move-in. And so your student will sign up for move-in time as well as a testing appointment. So if you sign up for move in on August 15th at 11 o'clock in the morning, you're going to want to sign up for an August 15th about 10 o'clock in the morning testing time. I know when the testing website launched for signups Thursday evening last week, there were some hiccups there, but they got it up and running on Friday. So if you had any trouble looking, especially for our weekend appointments during that time, I should be able to find what you need now. Students can bring up to 2 guests and 1 vehicle to the hall. We have really trying to keep the density of people in one area at a time as small as it can be, which is why move-in lasts 2 weeks instead of typically we do this in about 2 days. 2 guests, 1 vehicle. Your 1 hour move-in appointment. So if you signed up for that August 15th, 11 o'clock time, it would be from 11 o'clock to noon. That 1 hour is to check in, unload the vehicle, and then move your vehicle to a garage to make room for folks who are coming in behind you. Once the vehicle is moved to the garage, you can come back on foot to the residence hall and stay as long as you need to finish setting your students' room up and make it their home away from home. If you make trips off campus, and you probably will, right? Publix or Target or Walmart or wherever it is that you want to go to get decorations or supplies. When you return to campus, you're going to want to park back in the garage and carry your purchases back to the hall, or you can swing by with your car after 5 p.m. when the move-in times have ended. Otherwise, there's just not enough room for you to swing back by the hall. We really need every space around the hall empty for a very carefully calculated move-in process to go well. So we need everybody to respect that.
Wish I'd gotten more of the.
We obviously do have students and guests need to be wearing masks and practicing social distancing. That is going to be particularly important in the elevators. I don't know if you've traveled anywhere where you need to be careful about elevators. It's not something we think about often unless you have that in your workplace, and most of us are not going places where, well, most of us are not going a whole lot of anywhere right now. So you shouldn't be sharing an elevator with somebody who's not in your family or your group. So take the stairs if you can. I'm going to pass it to Bree to talk a little bit about living on campus. And Bree, I'll forward these slides for you. Just tell me when you're ready for the next one.
Bree, it looks like you might be muted.
Sorry about that. My computer is frozen, so that's exciting. We'll just proceed. Technology, that's okay. I'm ready. It's like I can't even see the presentation screen.
Uh-oh.
Yikes. Okay, this is exciting. Alrighty, Mandy, I will just say, I'll just let you know when to move forward since I can't see the screen anymore.
All right, or I can take it if you want, and then just let me know when it pops back up for you. Let me know.
Alrighty, if you can go ahead and take it while I work on troubleshooting.
Okay, no problem. It worked all day long, right? And then as soon as we have an audience, here we are. All right, it's the name of the game lately, folks. We just stay nimble. So things to bring for the residence hall. All of our beds are twin extra long, so that's the kind of bedding that you will want to bring with you. Newly important on the list, always important, but higher on the list than usual, a thermometer. A lot of campus services or stores or places off campus are requesting that everybody do temperature checks before they go places. And so having your student have their own thermometer will be very helpful. Obviously masks, soap, hand sanitizer, all the things they need to stay healthy. Warm weather clothing and rain gear. And so there are students, and if this is your student, you know who they are. They want to bring all the things. there's not room for all the things. There's just not. And so if your student is packing all their favorite sweatshirts and sweaters and UGG boots and all the things, not this trip. You don't need it all. So pack lightly. It's hot in Tallahassee by anybody's measure for a good while. And it does, yeah.
It looks like the slides might be frozen. We're still looking at the first screen, or the first slide.
Which first slide?
The university housing.
Oh, not on my computer. Well, all right. Well, listen to the sound of my voice, and we're gonna have fun with it. I can send this to y'all new student family programs to share however you feel appropriate after. Okay. Well, warm weather clothing, rain gear, got it. Command hooks and strips are very helpful. That is one of the things that does minimal, if any, damage when used properly in the residence halls for the walls, so you don't get a damage bill at the end of the year. And you can decorate and hang things. You are allowed to bring a microwave with a lower wattage, right? We don't want something that you can cook a turkey in 4 minutes, but a small wattage microwave. And that's something that roommates should be talking. You probably don't need 2 in a room, right? So roommates should be talking about who's gonna maybe bring a microwave.
All righty, Mandy, I can take it from there.
Yay, all right, great.
All righty. So the things that we ask that you all leave at home, we know you're so excited to join the Seminole experience, and we can't wait to have you all. But we ask that you just leave a few items at home. So anyone who is not feeling well or who have recent exposure to COVID, we're asking that you just practice mindfulness. Be mindful that you can be exposing a lot of members in your community and other families, and we just care so much about each other, and we do not want that to happen. So we ask that if you have been experiencing any symptoms or have been exposed, just go ahead and stay home and prolong your move-in time with us. Pets are so cute, and they make the world such an exciting place, especially during this difficult time. However, if your pet is not registered with Mandy and her team, we ask that you leave your pets at home. As a residence coordinator, it is so hard for me to turn away a cute pet, but also it's important that I am abiding by the rules. So leave your cute pets at home, and then we don't have to have a lovely, nice meeting about you following the policies, right? I love those meetings. Weapons and candles. Again, that's another thing. If you all have really took an opportunity and time to go to our website and look at all of the printed materials that we have available for you, weapons and candles are also not allowed. We love Bath and Body Works. We love the great smells. However, just not here in our resident halls, as well as weapons. It doesn't really create a conducive environment for learning and make our students feel safe while living with us in university housing. So let's just not pack those things either. Refrigerators, we recognize that a lot of students want to bring in fancy refrigerators from all a variety of different places. Home Depot, Target, Sears, we ask that you also leave those at home. We have done a really good job as a department with providing you all with some very nice refrigerators, and you don't necessarily need to pack your own personal fridge. So just bring those, leave those at home, because the room is a little small. There's no room for a large fridge, and there's enough room for you and your roommate to be able to share and occupy that refrigerator. All righty, safety and security. So as we think about all of the things that are currently going on at a national and global level, I'm sure a lot of parents are wondering, what does safety and security look like with university housing here in Florida State? No worries, we got you covered. Students will swipe into their resident halls with their FSU ID cards. Students will be able to have one guest from another hall at a time, and no off-campus guests or no overnight guests. I know a lot of people may be freaking out when they see the no off-campus guests and no overnight guests. We want to make sure that we're being mindful of the potential spread of COVID. Being able to only have on-campus guests as well as on-campus residents will allow us to be more intentional. If a student was potentially to impact COVID, to see who have they been hanging around, what other halls and what communities they live in. And unfortunately, we're not able to do that when we're allowing off-campus guests and overnight guests. So it's really for the overall health and wellness of your student. And then FSU alerts. So make sure you sign up for those FSU alerts if you haven't already. FSU alerts will let you know what are some key things that are happening in nearby campus in the Tallahassee area, or what are some things that you need to be aware of as a student. It's going to be like your best friend for safety and security measures. And then FSU PD, we have some very great police officers that are trained here to serve and meet the needs of our students. We had an opportunity to meet with a lovely lieutenant, and they have been preparing for your safety and your arrival as you come back to campus. If you ever feel like you don't feel safe on campus, or you need to have a conversation with the officers here on our campus, they're very highly trained and they're willing and open to engage in a conversation to ensure that your students are safe while attending Florida State. So supporting and programming. So this is going to look a little bit different as we now think about COVID-19 and how that has shifted how we interact with our students. So head staff is going to be available 24/7. So you may ask, what's this term head staff? Head staff are live-in residence coordinators who oversee the daily living of our resident halls here at Florida State. So when we say 24/7, these are live-in staff members. They're in their offices. We are in our offices, because I'm one of them, from 9:00 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. We will also have office hours where students can drop in and meet with us due to social distancing measures, if they do prefer that personal one-on-one contact. And we also will have Zoom office hours as well for those students who are like, I really think Miss Bree and her colleagues are cool, but I'm more interested in a meeting via Zoom. That's okay. We want to make sure that we're serving and meeting the diverse needs in terms of our meeting structures and style. So student staff members in front desk and resident assistants. So front desks are also staffed 24/7. So if your students have any questions in regards to maintenance concerns, maintenance issues, questions around safety, or they just need someone to talk to because they're bored, our front desk staff is also another great staffing position that we have in university housing to serve and meet the needs of your students. And then we have resident assistants. Our resident assistants work collaboratively with our student staff front desk workers, as well as the residence coordinators. So we directly supervise the RAs. They're the individuals that's going to really make sure that your students are getting acclimated to campus, and they're kind of going to be like their best college buddy. They're going to be there for them through the hard days, the long days, the exciting times to cheer them on. And they're going to really make sure that they create that sense of belonging where Florida State can really feel like home for them. And then we have some professional staff. So those are our hall coordinators. We also have custodial staff. So our custodial staff really works very hard to ensure the upkeep of the building and really ensuring that things are very clean. And those measures have definitely been taken into consideration in terms of our cleaning practices. And we also have adapted those due to the recent changes of COVID. So we are definitely working hard as a custodial staff. Our maintenance staff, those are the individuals that's going to really make sure that your students' heating and cooling is being taken care of. Plumbing issues are being taken care of. I would definitely say that here at Florida State, we have a very, very hardworking team in general, but our custodial and facility staff really work very hard to ensure that we are making sure we're following up on work orders and things that are being submitted so that your students can have a really good experience in terms of their living space and conditions. And then one of my favorite parts, virtual programs. We are going to still make sure that we are providing some programs for students to engage in. We have a residential curriculum model here in university housing where we will focus on a variety of different learning outcomes and goals for your students. So those learning goals include things like wellness, making sure that they are healthy and all the dimensions of wellness. We also have something called respect. We think it's very important. A part of being a Seminole is also making sure that we accept and appreciate the differences of residents who live and belong within our community. And then scholarship, really making sure that students have an opportunity and time to connect with FSU resources, but also get some really great study tips to ensure that they are being very successful in their coursework as well in their classes. And then connection, that's more of like the fun piece. So as students are really being, their best selves and going to classes and working so hard, that connection piece allows them to build relationships and lifelong friendships with other people within their halls and their communities. So the virtual programming will take place through Zoom, but we'll also make sure that we're catering to a variety of different learning styles and needs. So let's say if your student comes to Florida State and they don't necessarily have the funds or resources to a laptop, or they may have a learning disability, you're wondering, how will we serve and meet the needs of your students? University housing we very much so pride ourselves on meeting the diverse needs of our students. So through our programmatic efforts, we're going to also have some events that occur outside on the lawns with social distancing measures. We'll also have some passive type programs and events that will take place where students can pick up all packaged items within Ziploc bags. So we want to make sure that we're catering to all students, and we recognize that access looks very different for everyone, and we still want to make sure, regardless of what someone experiences like that, and a laptop will not be a barrier here in university housing, because we're still going to make sure that we're programming and getting you great information and catering to your needs to have a really good experience with us. All righty, now it's the question section. Questions, comments, or concerns? We're so excited for y'all to live with us.
Thank you so much, Mandy and Bree. Before we kick off with our questions, I will say that y'all are not able to unmute yourselves, and that's simply because we are recording this so that we can put it in our archives later, so that you can always go back and watch, but really just to manage noise level and all of those great things. And then my next piece is you will be able to chat your questions because you can't unmute yourself, and you will be sending those questions directly to two of our orientation leaders that are here with us tonight. So please send all of your questions to either Nyla or to McKenna, and you can change it in the chat function. So please only send your questions to Nyla or McKenna, and then I will get those asked to Bree and Mandy, of course. So to start us off with questions, our first question is, what would happen if a student tests positive for COVID on move-in day?
So the process is not any different, whether it's on move-in day or later. So the COVID test will happen immediately prior to move-in, and then you move in, and then the student will get their results a day or two. They're telling us currently, that's the projection, that students will have their results in a day or two. So if a student does test positive, they would not be clear to stay in the residence halls and would have to go relocate over to Rogers Hall and follow the protocol that's outlined from the medical staff at that point. As you can imagine, just in the brief time we've been planning all of this, the guidance on being clear to return to the residence hall has changed. And so I don't want to get into the details of that here because we will have that in writing from our medical experts very shortly. But they're leaning toward a timeline rather than another test based on the current medical guidance. The testing is being the testing and all of this protocol is being overseen by the FSU School of Medicine. And so we have our own in-house experts, which is awesome because we're not relying on other resources. We have resources right on campus who know our timeline and our culture and our priorities and are really dedicated to serving the students and our communities. So the student would head over to Rogers with enough, with some bedding and some supplies to keep them entertained and comfortable for the period of time outlined by the School of Medicine. While they're in Rogers, they'll have access to telehealth appointments. And so they would have access to medical professionals. And of course, if they were in an acute situation, just like in any of our residence halls, they would contact FSU PD for an emergency response. We are obviously hoping that doesn't ever happen. But all of that would be outlined for students who would go to Rogers for that period of time. We are still very much working out how food works and some other things. So we don't have all the answers about exactly how all services will be, but that's what we know as of right now.
Thanks so much. Another question that we have gotten is how will all of these spaces maintain sanitation? So like the kitchen spaces that are in the residence halls, the dining halls, all the spaces where students may be, how are we ensuring that those are staying clean?
Yeah, so we can only speak about residence halls. We don't have any expertise or knowledge about the policies and procedures going on elsewhere. So I just want to be super clear about that. For housing, common areas will continue to be cleaned in all of our halls except for Rogers Hall, because they won't be using community spaces in Rogers Hall. They'll be in their own apartments. But everywhere else, the common areas will be continued to be serviced by our staff, regularly cleaned. We are making some adjustments, like, typically we have, board games and things like that at the residence hall front desk to check out. We're not so much going to do that this year, at least until things clear up a bit. So we're making some changes about kind of high touch points. Things like the ice machines. We're closing the ice machine. So if your student likes cold water, there's just going to be a little bit less cold because touching that ice scoop and putting it back, it's just not a good idea. And so things like that, we're trying to mitigate high touch pieces, but our staff will still be cleaning in the residence halls. The caveat to that, parents, family members, friends, that your student's responsible for cleaning their own room. So that may be a conversation, and their own bathroom. So that may be a conversation for right. Some of you are like, we need to maybe have a conversation on the way to Tallahassee. So just, they are responsible for that. It's something that our staff can help them kind of make a schedule with their roommates and suite mates and kind of figure out how that's going to all work. So everybody's sharing that responsibility. But they are responsible for cleaning their own bathroom and their own rooms. Our staff will not be entering rooms or bathrooms except for maintenance purposes this year.
Thanks so much.
I would also add too is that our staff is also going to be wearing masks and gloves at all times. In addition to that, they're going to be going through keeping a very close eye on trash, also making sure that they are sanitizing doorknobs and everything like that, just like Miss Mandy said. So they have been working very hard in terms of ensuring that things that germs can transfer on is that we're limiting that interaction. So I just also wanted y'all to know that our staff are also required to wear masks and gloves while they are cleaning and going throughout the hall. And they are also required to be tested as well before they can work.
Thanks so much, Mandy and Bree. Our next question is going to be, so how do you sign up for the FSU alerts?
There's an FSU alerts website at the OLs, and staff and Allison folks may have more information on that. There's a FSU alerts website, and that is, I would say, the best source of information. Again, that's run out of emergency management and FSU PD. So I would check out their website for that. I know Allison popped back on, so she might have more to add on that.
Hi, everybody. My name is Allison Hughes. I serve as one of the Associate Deans of Students in the Department of Student Support and Transitions and New Student and Family Programs. I serve as the director. And so actually for family members, FSU Alert's a little bit different. You can't actually subscribe to the notifications that your student would get, but you can still be notified of the same information. And so the reason why that is because we want to make sure that the students that are on campus in potentially immediate danger, if that is the case, or whether that's a severe thunderstorm or anything along those lines, that they get that information first and in the most timely format. And so typically what that means is if you're signed up for Family Connection, which I encourage all of you to join, our Family Connection e-newsletter does send notifications out to over 40,000 family members that are registered for that. It's absolutely free. You just sign up and we would send you an email. We also share all of the FSU alerts on our social media. And so that's the best way for a family member to stay connected. A lot of the times you are checking your social media and emails more regularly than your student might. And so that's what I would encourage you to do is to follow Family Connection on Facebook, Twitter. We have an Instagram, a lot of different options, and then sign up for Family Connection. And I'm going to ask that our wonderful orientation leaders that are on this chat drop the link to the Family Connection website. We'll do that in just a second as well. That way you can get signed up. And typically you'll get that information within minutes of it going out, and then you can follow up with your student. But a lot of really good information that happens there.
I'll say Allison and the whole team do a great job keeping our social media really up to par on what's going on campus, not just the alerts and emergency stuff, but just in general as far as resources. Sometimes, true story, we're recording, so I'm accountable for this, but sometimes I will go to the Family Connection Facebook page if I'm looking for a link that I know recently came out to the FSU community and I can't put my hands on it. I go to the Family Connection Facebook page to find things. So it's a great resource.
Thank you all so much. And I'm glad that it keeps you up to date. That's so good to hear. So the next question is, because fish tanks are allowed in the residence halls, would that mean that hermit crabs are allowed? No.
No. So a fish lives underwater 100% of the time. So it has to live underwater 100% of the time to be a fish in a fish tank.
Perfect. Thank you. The next question is, if can a student sign up for a housing contract in spring, but not in the fall?
Yeah, so this is a uniquely 2020 question. We don't normally have this question. So if you are in a situation where you've decided to not have your student live on campus for fall, but want them to live on for spring, or if you are a spring admit starting in January, we will have more information about spring contracts. Typically that information is available mid to late September. I don't know when the information will be available. Certainly if this applies to you, drop us a line kind of mid-September and we'll at least have, I think, a timeline update for you. The challenge for spring 2021 that is unique is that we don't quite know what the health guidance is going to be, right? It could be that the rules are different and we need to space people out more, or we're not accepting new students to join the on-campus kind of already established kind of population and kind of ecosystem that we've got going on. I don't know, but timeline is what I can tell you. If you drop us a line, give us a call mid-September. I'm hoping we'll have some more information then, at least about when we'll have those conversations. So it's going to be a little bit delayed this year, I expect.
Perfect. Thank you. So, we love to send our students a good care package. So how can students figure out what their address is? And then how do students pick up their mail?
Yes. So I can answer the first half and I might send it to Bree for the second half. So the students all will be assigned a box number at the UPS store on campus. All residential students, that is included in your rental rate, is to have that service available at the UPS store on campus. The box numbers will be issued. Typically we do those in mid-August. Obviously things are all a little bit accelerated this year. And so we're in the process of getting those assigned. And so we will post, we have a fall move-in website on the front page of the housing website. You can link to the fall move-in information and we'll post when those are ready, we'll post that link. It's probably going to be another week or so, but there is a actual street address. So it's not a PO box. So you can do your Amazon orders and from everywhere else to an actual street address and have your student send them lots of good stuff. And then I believe the UPS store sends them notifications. But Bree, do you want to take it from there about what that looks like?
Yes. So our UPS store here on campus will send your students notifications to their FSU emails, letting them know that they have a package. So packages that they would order, things like from Amazon or other different organizations, all of those things are going to be shipped through the UPS and can be picked up through UPS. So you're probably wondering, what items will my student be able to pick up directly from their resident hall front desk? If someone decides to, do some nice flowers and drop them off at the desk, we're allowed to let students pick up flowers. If someone brings some food to the desk, students are allowed to pick up some food from our front desk. And then the last thing is the care packages that's really hosted through our Inter-Residence Hall Council and our National Honorary Association Council. So those particular care packages will arrive at the front desk of your students' prospective communities. So they'll also receive a notification email. Sometimes students will not always come get their care packages. So as residence coordinators, we do an extra nudge and we decide to give them calls and send them some additional emails because we know as parents, you all spent a lot of hard-earned money really creating those care packages and sending it. So we do our due diligence to do an additional nudge to make sure that they can come up and pick up their care packages. And those care packages will be kept behind our front desk. But as far as major packages, those will all go through UPS.
Perfect. Thank you all so much. And now you know how to get your care packages to your students. So there are a lot of questions about moving day logistics. And so maybe provide a little bit more context on what exactly the full day will look like as far as it's planned right now. And I know there are some questions about last year, there were folks there to help people move in. And so will those people be there this year? And then will there be like moving carts that folks can use and those pieces?
Yeah, so I was just dropping a link in the chat for the on-campus marketing care packages. You all probably got a direct mail piece pretty recently from OCM, but if you purchase your care package, they have a whole, if you want to do all the packages, you can sign up with OCM. They do all the packaging and shipping and things for you. And then at different points in the semester, your student will just magically get a gift. And those are the packages that Bree was talking about that can be at the front desk, but those OCM care packages and any linens that you order through them, we get a portion of those proceeds that goes directly to support programming for our residential students. So move-in day logistics. I was dropping the link, so I missed the first half, but it was about volunteers and helpers. Was that the first half? Leah? Yeah, I think. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay. No, that's okay. Because of trying to social distance, we are not going to have volunteers to help with move-in, because having strangers greet you and touch your stuff is probably not where we're all trying to be right now. So we will have carts, and if everybody sticks to their 1 hour time frame, so help a family member behind you out and stick to your 1 hour time frame, return your cart when you're done, and then it's ready for the next person, we should have enough to go around. If they get forgotten in hallways or not returned for 3 hours, then we're going to be short. We ordered enough to have extra, and supply chains being what they are, we were not able to get the full order that we tried to get earlier this summer. So there's enough, but there's not extra. So we just need everybody to plan accordingly. If you have a dolly that you want to bring from home, you are encouraged to do that if that would help speed up your move. Bree's shaking her head. Like, yeah, if anything you can bring that doesn't take up a ton of room in your vehicle when you're coming, please do that to help move things along. So as volunteers and carts, were there other parts to that question?
I think I would add, in addition to what Ms. Mandy said, is that we're also going to have staff that are going to be working, which are our resident assistants that was mentioned in our living on campus section of our slides. So they'll have scheduled time block shifts, and you'll be able to see them when you all arrive on campus, and they'll be in shirts where they'll be very identifiable. And we'll also make sure that we're giving parents courtesy calls like, hi, you have about 15 minutes left with your cart. Let's bring it down for the next family. So just kind of let you know, the RAs as well as the residence coordinators will be present on move-in to help you all troubleshoot or answer any questions that you all have.
Yep. So we won't have the volunteers to help with the actual physical load of bringing all your stuff in, but we will have people directing. Yeah, FSUPD is going to help us direct traffic and keep things moving, which all of us who live and work here appreciate as well. And then we will have our staff helping to direct things outside and get you into the right place. So it's not going to be not going to have a lot of people in your space to help you physically with your belongings.
Thank you all so much. And then another piece with that too is, we love the moving carts, so it really, really helps. Is there a plan to disinfect those after each use?
Yes. So our staff, so the resident assistants as well as the resident coordinators, we have been provided from our lovely facility staff Clorox wipes, Lysol. So we will be making sure that we are wiping down those carts and things as soon as families bring them back down to the front desk. That's why it's so important when you all do have carts to bring them down, because if they're found in the hallway, then we don't necessarily get that opportunity in time to sanitize them and wear our gloves. So we are definitely going to be making sure that we are not spreading the germs and that we are wiping down everything in the process of protecting our students, staff, and ourselves, but also making sure that we're protecting you all as the family and friends as you move with us.
Thank you so much. We have a great question about, Bree, I know you kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but maybe go a little bit more in depth of the type of events that maybe will be hosted to help students meet other students, even though we're in this interesting time of social distancing.
So I can tell a little bit more about that. So in terms of the events really are going to be based off of our learning outcomes. It's like our theoretical framework through our residential curriculum. So wellness programs centered around the 5 dimensions of wellness, also respect, that really focuses on our social justice, equity, and inclusion, as well as scholarships. So those are some things to get them connected to academics. And then the connection piece is really more so just the fun programs. So what those programs could potentially look like, I can kind of give you all some examples and just really come up with some stuff off the top of my head. So we can potentially do a program or event on how to pop into a successful semester, get it pop. And then the RAs will pretty much be able to have popcorn bags inside of a Ziploc bag. They'll be able to have like sticky notes, because that comes in a package, as well as like top 10 study tips that all first year students need to know to be successful. So that's one potential event, how to pop into a successful semester. Another event really could look like an opportunity in time where students get together and they get on Zoom, and RAs will be able to maybe have like a karaoke event. So sing along and sing it through, like how to sing through your frustrations as you prepare for finals and exams. So you'll be able to come on Zoom and sing to some karaoke with your favorite hits, meet some new great residents from other resident halls in your community. And through that experience, we hope that someone's like, oh, you love Beyonce. That's my favorite artist, everyone. I love her too. Well, what hall do you live in? What floor do you live on? And oops, that's a connection that they'll have an opportunity to meet a new friend and build a relationship. But we also recognize that there's that scholarship component and piece with a lot of parents. You all send your students here to be scholars and really make sure that they're graduating within 4 years. So through our scholarship events, that can also look like us collaborating with our campus partners, the Career Center. So being able to have one of the events I can really think of off the top of my head is like cocoa and connections, right? So being able to have an opportunity in time to have some cocoa present in a Ziploc bag where students can pick up out in the side of the lounges, but then that connection piece that they'll then go on in a virtual Zoom, and then they'll talk a little bit about how do you prepare for interviews through virtual engagement. What are the top 10 successful skills that employers are looking for all students to have when they graduate for college? So those are just like a variety of different events from that students can have. And then to kind of focus on like a social justice, equity, and inclusion lens, we could potentially throw a program that says like a walk in my shoes, where students will have an opportunity in time. Residence coordinators will send out a PDF of a shoe, and we'll facilitate a conversation on identity development, really helping students understand that everyone has privileges, right? And it's important that we're aware of our privileges and how they may show up in the residential living space. And privilege isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's how we utilize our privilege and interact with others. It's really the important thing and what matters. So a walk in my shoes, students will have an opportunity to write down what are their most salient identities, whether that's race, education, gender, class, etc. And then we will facilitate a conversation where we set ground rules as residence coordinators. Things such as, please use I statements. Let's not attack other people for their viewpoints. Let's call them in instead of calling them out. So those kind of programs will really be a variety of different programs I really came up with off the top of my head that could be implemented within the resident halls and what your student can have an opportunity and time to experience with us. Hopefully that answered your question.
This is where I'm just kind of like in awe of our hall staff and their creativity and their resourcefulness. And so and so the foundation of all of that is what Bree mentioned before, is the residential curriculum with our different areas that we focus on. And it's very intentional, right? And so one of, freshman program especially has often kind of, the allure has always been food, right? Like that's how we get interest. That I don't think will change, as evidenced by some of our examples. But just the distribution and the kind of the vehicle and the mechanisms will change a bit. But all of it does still rest on that residential curriculum to have your student connect to all the things that they kind of need to have a successful start here. And then I had Allison posted in the chat a couple of campus-wide resources, links for events that are happening across campus to onboard students for the semester as well.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. So our next question, we've gotten lots of questions about laundry. So could y'all talk a little bit more about what laundry looks like in the residence halls, and then also like how much that costs and all of those things?
Bree, that is all you.
Yeah. So in terms of laundry, so laundry is taking place within the resident halls. I be very transparent with you. I'm really not sure of what the cost is, so I don't want to give you false information. So I have no qualms with saying I don't know, but I will definitely figure out if one of our lovely orientation leaders who have lived with us can give you the price of the laundry. So the laundry rooms, what that's going to look like, there's going to be there's going to be a lot of double sanitation that's going to really be taking place in there. So our facility staffs are going to be doing constant walkthroughs of the laundry room, ensuring things such as like clothes aren't left behind, making sure that they're picking up any laundry detergent or things that are going to be left behind. Also making sure that they're sanitizing the countertops, also sanitizing the outside knobs and things is also going to be additional added layer in terms of what our maintenance and facilities crew is going to be doing in terms of like safety and making sure that those germs and things aren't necessarily being transferred. We're also going to encourage as residence coordinators that students are being very mindful of the amount of students that are in a laundry room to practice social distance measures. So before you probably can have 12 to 11 people in there, we're asking that students are being really mindful of that. Yes, we do want you to wash your clothes, but we want you to do it within measures of safety. So we're also going to be making sure resident coordinators, we're responding to our emails if students aren't necessarily adhering to laundry protocols and procedures. We're following up if students are saying that their laundry was potentially touched by another resident. And we're going to also make sure that we're taking it a step extra to do some educational things on how do we send out some laundry etiquette emails as well, because we do recognize for some people sharing a space is the first time that they've ever had to do that when they come to college, and they don't know how to live with others. But we'll have them covered and we'll figure it out and work with them. Yes. So that's the laundry. Does anyone know the cost of the laundry?
Allison popped it into the chat. Probably found it on the business services website. And so students use their FSU ID card to do laundry. And so some of us remember bringing rolls of quarters to do laundry, and that is no longer, thank goodness. So you'll load in and you can follow the link that Allison posted about how to put money on their card for that. There's also an app, Laundry View app in the MyFSU suite of apps, where I kind of wish I had this at my house with a couple of teenagers around. It tells you when there are machines open and when there are not. And so, if you wait to do laundry until Sunday evening, you're going to have a harder time. If you do it in the middle of the day on Tuesday, probably going to have an easier time finding the machines open that you want. Most of the laundry rooms are on the ground floor in our newer buildings, and some of our other buildings, they can be on different floors, but there's a certain ratio of washers and dryers for students, but they are going to have to be, as Bree said, mindful of just not kind of congregating there. But that Laundry View app will help them know, so they don't have to haul their stuff to the laundry room and find out that everything's already taken. There's an app for that, which is awesome.
I love that. Can definitely say that the app is very, very helpful. So would recommend that. Also wish I had one in my own house too. But our next question is, we know a piece that we love about our residence halls is that there are spaces for students to hang out, connect, and get to know each other. Will those spaces still be open for students to kind of congregate? Maybe they want to go to these spaces to have their remote classes. Will those just be available for students in the residence halls?
Yes, with a reduced capacity, we're looking at the capacity for every room and it'll be posted. So there won't be any question about what's supposed to be going on there. And especially in our historic renovated halls, which are the halls around Landis Green, and each of those buildings is just unique in its own way and has little nooks and crannies from when those buildings were renovated, and so they're very not standard. So our staff is going through with some facilities experts as well to determine what the facility load is for each of those spaces. And hear me say, just like everything else, if circumstances change, it could be possible that those rooms are taken offline, depending on what the health and guidance is. I was in a meeting with some academics colleagues as well recently, and they are looking at the facility load available in places like the William Johnston building, where they have some study rooms that typically are, you know, rather large groups. There will be study spaces in lots of places on campus as well. So a lot of students don't want to study where they live. They want to go somewhere else. And so our staff will be as up to speed as possible on where those spaces are, so your student has options. But we will keep those spaces available in the halls as long as health and guidance, you know, allows us to, and as long as students are being respectful and following those policies as well.
Perfect. Thanks so much. So the next question is, can you bring 3 people with the student to help them move in, as long as they are rotating out and only having 2 in the building?
Yes. If you got it, if you have to do it, do it. It's a very exciting time. I get it. Part of the 2 guest limit is to limit the total number of people coming to the community, right? So we have about 5,000 students living with us. Each of them is bringing 2 people. So now we have 15,000 people coming to campus to move in, plus all the staff and support. If each person brings another person, right, it just kind of like exponentially grows the exposure in that 2-week process of move-in. We've got other higher education institutions in town. We've got public schools opening in town as well. So just the overall exposure within the community, we ask you to try to keep it to that 2 limit. I know that, you know, the other thing is too that the transportation is going to be at a minimum. So there won't be shuttles running around campus. And so anybody who comes to campus to help with move-in is going to have to be able to also travel around campus in the August heat in Tallahassee, mostly on foot. And so that is just, think about that. If there's an aunt, an uncle, or a grandparent who really just wants to bring Johnny to college because it's, my grandma brought me to college, like I get it, it's very exciting. But maybe there's a different time for them to visit rather than move in, because it's just a hustle and bustle. And so we ask you to try to respect that 2-person limit, and just think about that exponential growth of the number of people on campus as people bring more people. But yeah, 2 people in the hall at a time. Everybody else has got to hang out in the car, which is only supposed to be there for an hour, right? Or outside where it's hot. So just think about those factors.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Mandy. So I've been getting a lot of questions about parking, and so I'll answer that one really quick. So if a student is bringing their vehicle onto campus, they will need to register it. And you can do that online. It's pretty quick and simple. The great thing about FSU's parking permits is that they are virtual, so they do not need to have a physical copy of a permit located in their vehicle anywhere. It is not free, but there's no like separate charge. So the charge for your parking, for your students' parking, will be in the student fees that they pay. And so you won't see like a separate, just your parking and transportation charge, but just know that that is located in the student fees. So just wanted to throw that out there for y'all as well. And again, they can register for that online, pretty quick and simple.
And Leah, the housing angle on that is there's no specific parking reserved for residential students, and your student's going to have to find an overnight spot to leave their car in, which is not the majority of student spaces. So there's some really great campus maps that show you where parking is and isn't, what student parking is, and where overnight parking is. And so just think about all of those factors. Parking should be a little bit easier than it has been in a fall semester typically, but it still can be challenging to find an overnight spot close to your residence hall. So the west side of campus, so Sally, McCollum, has the best parking anywhere on campus. So if your student is in one of those buildings, they're going to have the easiest time. There's great parking on that side of campus. So that's kind of the housing part we get often.
Perfect. Thanks so much. The next question is, so if a student does happen to need to move into Rogers due to COVID, would that process look like they have to move everything out of their room completely? So just maybe talk a little bit more about what that transition would look like.
Yeah, sure. Yep. They should bring some bedding and enough things to keep them comfortable, all their academic stuff so that they can stay on top of classes, assuming that they are asymptomatic or not ill enough that they don't need an excuse from class. If their classes are virtual, and there are some connections that will happen if they do need excuses for attendance for class, they do have a positive COVID test, all that's set up for them. All those wheels will be set in motion and they'll be taken care of for that. So don't worry about that. But for the halls, they should take bedding, enough things to be comfortable for about 10 days. Academic stuff, the thermometer, right? So they can they're going to have this telehealth thing, but you're not going to be there with them, which is going to be hard on them and you, I suspect. And so as much, what would you want them to have if they weren't feeling well, or if they needed to take a medical assessment? That thermometer is going to be a big part of things. And so making sure that when you pack that, they have a little go bag that they can take with them of that kind of stuff to Rogers. So no, they do not need to move out of their residence hall. The majority of their stuff is going to stay put, just the short stay stuff.
Yeah, and then as residence coordinators too, we're also going to be making sure that we're doing intentional outreach. So we recognize that being in isolation is definitely not fun and doesn't contribute to a student's mental health in the most positive way. So we'll make sure that we're giving them calls and sending them emails to really make sure that they are at least getting some interactions and some contact from our residence coordinators. So we don't want you to think that if your students go over to Rogers Hall, that we're not going to care for them. We definitely are going to still care. We're going to still make sure we're doing intentional outreach and engaging them as much as they would like to.
Thanks so much.
As far as cleaning goes in Rogers, it's not our staff. We actually have a third-party contracted company that is qualified and equipped to clean a building that has known COVID positive folks in it. So just know that we are protecting our staff because it's very important to us. But while we take care of your students, we've also made proper arrangements for as students come in, are clear, move out, that we turn those spaces over appropriately. So that was a high priority for us to lock in and get that taken care of, and also make sure our own staff is not being asked to do that when they're not trained or prepared.
Thank y'all. One last question before we wrap up. There are a lot of questions coming in about if a student is staying in Rogers, how will they have access to meals? And then as well as if a student happens to test positive for COVID, would the family member be able to come pick them up and then they would be able to stay home?
Great question. So we're still working on the meal situation, so I can't answer that for you, but we will have that shortly. And then yes, you can come get them. The general medical guidance is that they not travel, right? Because they are known positive. So if you stop at the Busy Bee on the way home, what's the level of exposure you've now? Please don't stop at the Busy Bee. It's my favorite place. But we don't want them on the road, right? To provide possible exposure, but if you want to come and get them, you can. We've got our communication stream pretty well set. So if a student is deciding to have their downtime somewhere else, we just ask that they tell us that so we can account for whether they're in Rogers or not, but they don't have to go to Rogers. They will have to go do their isolation somewhere. But especially if you're within driving distance, you want to come get them. We're not going to get in the way of a family taking care of their student.
Thank you so much. I hope that this ease some worries and maybe some anxieties that
Yes.
you have coming in. I know that we did not get to all the questions that y'all had. Y'all had some great ones, and so I want to thank y'all for participating and engaging. If you don't hear from your students, hear it from me that I know that they're appreciative that you are asking these questions and that you are here participating. So thank you. We really do appreciate it. Again, this has been recorded. So if you give us just a few days, we will get this up on our website in our archives, so that if you missed the beginning part of it, or if you want to go back and hear some answers, you can absolutely do that. We'll get that up on the website. Of course, as always, y'all can reach out to the housing folks. Huge thank you to Mandy and Bree. Did amazing today answering y'all's questions, and they will be happy to continue to answer those as they start coming up. So just head over to their website, get their contact information, and they would be happy to help.
Go Noles!
Go Noles, thank y'all so much, and congratulations.
Bye. Thank you.